Good to have Shabbos, everyone. This week's Parsha is that of Matos and Masei. Parshas Masei begins, Elam Masei b'nei Yisrael. These are the journeys of the children of Israel who left the land of Egypt. And it says, Vayichta Moshe Rabbeinu wrote, Es Moitzoehem L'Maseihem. All the occurrences during their journeys. Few questions. Then the Parsha goes and it enumerates and tells us the name of every place in which Klal Yisrael journeyed, and they came and they settled and they set up camp. 42 places. Why does the Torah have to elaborate and enumerate each and every one? We can understand if they maybe want to tell us a few. The Rambam says this is so that we shouldn't think that they journeyed and they existed in the desert because they were near large cities that had food and water. So the Torah tells us, no, here are the places they encamped. And as you will see, they were deserts, they were abandoned, there was no source of food or water. But if that's the intent, why does it have to mention all 42? Could have told us 20, 30, and it would have been clearly indicative that no human being could inhabit this location without divine intervention. Why does it have to mention all 42? In addition, as the verse says, Vayichte Moshe es Moitzoehem. Moshe wrote that which found them, the occurrences, the things that found Klal Yisrael during their journeys. What exactly does that mean? It means Moshe was writing down a short history of everything that happened. But it's strange that the Torah would reveal this to us. What exactly does it mean that the things that they found, the things that occurred? We find in Parshas Bahaloischa that it tells us that when Klal Yisrael began their journey, it tells us that there were some places they stayed overnight. And then they journeyed. Some places they stayed a day, 2 days, a week, a month, a year. It tells us all the different types of journeys, that there were some we stayed for quite a while and some we stayed for a very short period. This too, we have to understand, what is the Torah revealing to us by giving us this information? And then we also find that when Yeshua sent spies, Kolev and Pinchas, to after the death of Moshe Rabbeinu, that they should enter the land of Canaan and they should spy, it says over there, Vayachpor. The word for spying, their reconnaissance mission, is Vayachpor, from the word choifer. Choifer means to dig. It doesn't say l'ragel, to be like the meraglim, to spy, but to dig. Well, we understand this simply to say a spy is digging for information, trying to uncover and see things that might be concealed. But nevertheless, it is a strange word to say that they went in there and they were going to dig in the land of Israel. The Kedushas Levi, the Baditchev Rebbe, he explains, and he says, when mankind, Adam and Chava, Adam and Eve, were banished from the Garden of Eden and they were sent into exile, it wasn't just an exile of their human form, human beings being sent away from their location, from their home. But more than that, the incredible sanctity that existed in the Garden of Eden, that too was sent into exile. And these elements of Kedusha were spread throughout the globe as a result of the sin of eating from the tree of knowledge. And this, the Barditchev explains, is why we find Klal Yisrael. You know, some people are exiled from their land and they all move to another land. Only by Jews do we find the phenomenon that Jews are spread out throughout the entire globe. Wherever you go, you're going to find Jewish communities. Why is it that Jews had to be exiled to all the different continents? And the Berditchev explains and says, because it is part of our mission to attract the sparks of sanctity that were enveloped and trapped by shells and covers of impurity and corruption. These sparks of sanctity that were sent into exile as a result of the banishment from the Garden of Eden, it is the mission of Klal Yisrael to redeem them, to release them from their incarceration of the impurity. How do we do that? We do it by fulfilling Hashem's mitzvahs, studying His Torah, and immersing ourselves in prayer. And the sanctity that is released from these mitzvahs, Torah study, fulfilling mitzvahs, prayer, the sanctity functions like a magnetic force, and it draws the sparks of holiness that are concealed throughout the globe, and it awakens them, it attracts them, and it releases them from the bondage of impurity and corruption. This is the mission of Klal Yisrael. If we didn't sin, the Or Chaim says, we could have gone into Eretz Yisrael, and the sanctity of Eretz Yisrael would have been so great it would have functioned as a magnet. But because of our weakness and shortcomings and led to the destruction of the temple, and therefore we had to experience exile and to be closer to these elements of Kedusha that are trapped so that we could revitalize them and release them through our Torah mitzvahs and our tefillas, our prayers. This, the Berditchev says, is the meaning of Moshe Rabbeinu writing all 42 of these locations. The Torah is not just identifying where we traveled, where whatever happened, happened. That was in the past. Want to tell people, as the Rambam says, that it wasn't an inhabitable location, so mention a few. But rather, each and every one of these locations, there was a great mass of sanctity that had to be released. And that's why Klal Yisrael was brought to these places. Sometimes we just needed to stay overnight, or a day, or a week, or a month. Sometimes we needed to stay there for years in order to create the magnetic force from the sanctity of our Torah and mitzvahs that would release and draw these incarcerated, imprisoned elements, sparks of sanctity. That's why it says in Parshas Bahaloischa, tells us how long we stayed. That's why it mentions all 42. This is why it says that Moshe wrote what we found in our journeys. What does it mean, what occurred and what we found? It means the sparks of sanctity that were distributed and dispersed throughout the globe. We were able to find it and release it. And that's the reason why when Yehoshua sent the spies, Kalev and Pinchas, into Israel, it says, Vayachbar, they dug. What does it mean to dig? Something that's buried, concealed. They were able to expose it and reveal it. The great Kedusha from Kalev and Pinchas was able to release the sparks of sanctity in the land of Canaan, rendering the inhabitants as ready to be conquered. No longer were there any shields of sparks of sanctity with them. It was removed and drawn unto Pinchas and Kalev and unto the encampment of Klal Yisrael. There was an incident with the Baal Shem Tov. He was traveling with his disciples, and one of their wagons had a broken wheel. And they had to stop and they had to repair it. And in the meantime, they davened mincha. They were afraid by the time they would come to the next town, it would be too late. So they davened mincha. And the Baal Shem Tov said to them that he sensed that there was something in this particular location that needed their public prayer, their service of mincha, to release the sparks of sanctity that were entrapped over here. And the Baal Shem Tov said, don't think that we davened here because our wagon broke down, just the opposite. Our wagon broke down because we needed to daven here. This is what the Torah is telling us in this Parsha, that there are things in the world that need to be done, need to be released, need to happen. And because of that, there are circumstances that befall Klal Yisrael, necessitating our prayer, our tehillim, our Torah study, fulfilling mitzvahs in various locations. We might think that there are Jews in Charleston and Savannah and in every small little community or whatever because they happen to be there and therefore they are engaging in their Torah mitzvahs and their prayers. Just the opposite. There's something in those communities, in that location, that requires Jewish Torah study and prayer and mitzvahs in order to reveal and to release the sparks of sanctity. We see so many things in our lives, in history, in this world, in which we think that this is the result of that which caused it. But the truth is, there is a producer and there is a director, Hashem. And Hashem knows that it's just the opposite. The reason why this is happening is because the result needs to be brought about. This didn't result because we did this. It's because this result needs to be brought about. That's why this happened. Things that happen to Klal Yisrael, whether it's through politics or through all types of forces in the economy or among political or whatever it might be, Hashem is directing us that we have to respond to that which the Almighty recognizes is necessary to release the elements of sanctity. And as we do this, as we release the elements of sanctity, they are drawn to the magnet of Hashem's Torah and mitzvahs, by which we will be able to bring about revelation of Mashiach speedily in our lifetime. We should never become despondent, even when, God forbid, tragedy occurs, because the Almighty, He knows the outcome. He knows the necessary steps that are required to bring us to certain points, because the outcome is what dictates the movement of Klal Yisrael. May the Almighty enable us to achieve our mission and release these sparks of holiness without experiencing tragedy, without experiencing difficulty. And may we all witness revelation of Mashiach speedily in our lifetime. Stay safe, stay healthy, and stay Jewish. Have a good Shabbat.